My name is Nano Namaro. I'm 30 years old. I work at a dating agency as a matchmaker. In recent years, more people have been getting married later on in life, and the number of unmarried people has increased too. But even so, there are a lot of people who want to find a good partner to spend the rest of their life with, or want to find someone that they want to have a family with. I'm working hard every day in the hope that I can be of help to people searching for a good match. However, every now and then I'll be faced with an incredible monster of a client who asks for the impossible.
Hello, have you got any men for me?
Speak of the devil. Mrs. Sakai, I've told you this many times, but it's not that simple to find a match. You only just signed up to our agency the other day, so it'll take a few more days. We'll call you if we find anyone you might want to meet, so you don't have to worry.
But I can't wait! You're taking too long. I can't stay single forever. It's too embarrassing. What's the point of me paying you so much money if you can't find me the man of my dreams right away? I'm not going to look this beautiful forever, you know. I've got to get married while I'm still in my prime.
Still in your prime? You're going to be 60 in 5 years. This is Mrs. Sakai. She's 55 years old. She's a newly subscribed client that's making impossible requests. She's the type I was telling you about at the beginning of this video. The most troubling thing about clients like Mrs. Sakai are the unrealistic standards that they have for their partners. But I should probably share a little more information about Mrs. Sakai to give you an idea of why she's impossible to deal with. The truth is, she's already been married once and actually only recently got divorced from her husband. I hear that the reason why she got divorced was because she and her husband had creative differences. But considering the way she refused to look me in the eye when I asked her about it, tells me that there's more to the story, and that she's mostly to blame for it. She's probably thinking that we won't introduce her to a good person if we find out what she did to upset her husband. Unsurprisingly, there are a lot of people who lie for that exact same reason. Anyway, it seems like that she resigned from her company around the same time, so there's no denying that she messed up pretty bad. However, she's got an obsession with marriage unlike any other, and because of that obsession, has kept going by the name of her ex-husband, hence why I have to call her Mrs. Sakai. I can only pity Mr. Sakai. But since she demands to be called that, I have no choice. According to Mrs. Sakai,
people can only become a full-fledged human being if they get married. A decent person would never get divorced,
says the 55-year-old divorcee. Anyway, my job is to find a match for anyone who is looking for a partner to spend the rest of their life with. Okay, so now I'd like to hear about what you're looking for in your partner. How old or young would you like them to be? A general idea of how much you'd want them to earn.
Well, there are a lot of things I want from a man, but I think the most important thing is youth.
Do you mean physical youth? Or do you mean...
Of course I do! I want him to be young! Are you even listening to me properly?
Seriously, my God. Pardon me, then what age range are you looking for?
As young as possible. The younger, the better.
Okay. Then would you be okay with meeting a gentleman in his late 40s?
What? A man in his 40s? You can't be serious. Are you telling me to date a grandpa? Don't you have anyone younger signed up in your agency?
Then how about someone in their 30s?
You can lower that to 20. I told you, as young as possible.
No way. Of course, we have men of all ages signed up to our agency, and we do have some people in their 20s. However, that number is very small, and the majority, if not all of the men in their 20s, have signed up because they're looking for someone that they can have a family with. Naturally, those men are all looking for a woman who are around the same age as they are, and the highest most of them have set their preferenced age range in around the mid-30s. I'm sure that the probability of finding someone with a mother complex so strong that they'd sign up to a dating agency just to start going out with someone that could actually be their mother is so small, it's infinitesimal. It's also my job to give clients a soft reality check when their standards are too high so that they can avoid getting their hearts broken. So, I understand where you're coming from. I get the want to have a powerful, vivacious young man as a partner. It could be a lot of fun too. However, according to data collected by our research team, it looks like couples who are closer in age tend to do better in the long term and end up staying together for longer. I also think that it's best that we have a wider scale to work on so that we can give you a lot more choices. It won't help to narrow the age range too much. So I think we could keep on looking at men that are around your age, as well as men that are in their 20s and 30s.
What? Men that are around my age already have one foot in the grave. I'm not looking for someone that comes with a coffin. Why should I marry someone like that? I don't want to have to take care of them.
And that's what every 20-year-old would say about you. But then you won't have as much of a choice.
Don't worry, I was so popular at work before I resigned. All the boys loved me.
Alert! Alert! There's a woman that's mistaken simple praise for being really popular. Okay. Do you think you could tell me what sort of things they were saying about you?
Well, the company I was working for had a lot of men in their 20s and their 30s. I got along with them very well, you know. They were always coming up to talk to me. And whenever we were chatting, they would always compliment me, saying that I'm very pretty and that I'm a wonderful woman.
Oh, then does that mean that you actually began dating one of those younger men?
No, of course not. I was married at the time. The most I could do was flirt with them.
Yeah, that's true.
But if I was single, I'm pretty sure that all the boys would have started fighting over me. It's a shame I didn't get divorced sooner.
Regardless of their age, sometimes a woman like Mrs. Sakai appears and likes to brag about how popular they are, when the truth is just the opposite. Mrs. Sakai does look very young for her age, and I think that she is very pretty. I don't think that everything the young men at her company were saying were all lies. However, I don't think she's realized that they were implying when they said the things that they did. When they said that she was very pretty, I could imagine that they left out the words for someone of your age. And being called a wonderful woman could mean that they think that she's a lovely person in general. But doesn't definitively mean that they want to date her. I don't doubt she was praised, but it's a bit cringy to automatically think they want to date her. It's harsh, but that's the truth. Every woman, young or old, should be aware of it. And generally, old women are wiser enough to understand the difference. That goes for me too. I've received compliments many times, but that's not because they want to date me, but because Japanese people tend to respect their elders more. And some show that by praising said elders. I would be touched if a younger man complimented me, but I wouldn't take that to think that I was popular with the boys. I would just smile, say thanks, and praise their shirt or something, and get on with the conversation. But sometimes, a type like Mrs. Sakai will take that praise to mean that everyone wants to date them. But think about it. Imagine that a younger guy was actually interested in dating you. And they really love you and want to be with you. Do you really think that they could stay calm when they tell you that you're pretty or that you're a wonderful woman? If they really were serious about you, do you really think they could act all cool and collected?
Well, I was thinking that you look really pretty, so I was wondering.
I think that this is closer to how it would actually turn out. Don't underestimate how shy Japanese men are. God damn it, how long do you think it's taking me to get a single date? It's been years. Y-E-A-R-S. Years.
Hey, are you listening to me?
Oh, yes, I'm listening. Go on.
Anyway, that's the age I'm looking for. The younger, the better. Got it? I know that it'll be a little difficult to get a match if they hear that I'm 55. But the second they see my photograph, I'm sure that they'll all be begging to meet me. So make sure you show them my pictures first, understood?
Yes, I'll do my best.
Oh, and I have another request. I want a man that...
There's more?
What do you mean, more? I've only told you the age I'm looking for.
Yeah, but that's already a needle in a haystack. Okay, so what else are you looking for in a partner?
I think that it's a matter of course, but... I want their salary to be a minimum of $50,000. If you find someone that's in their early 30s, I don't mind if they've never been married before, but if it's someone in their late 30s, I don't want them if they've never been married before. I mean, if they've never married until they're almost 40, then that must mean that there's something wrong with them. Oh, but that doesn't mean that I'm looking for a divorcee. That's a whole other problem. I think I'd be okay with marrying a widower that lost their wife to an accident or an illness or something. What else? Oh, savings. They've got to have at least $75,000 saved up. I don't want to have any financial trouble when we're newly married.
Okay, then may I ask how much you've got saved yourself?
Don't be silly. I don't have anything saved.
You don't have any savings?
It's only natural that the man brings home all of the money. Why do I have to have any savings? He should take care of me.
Yikes. This is even worse than I expected. She expects to take and take. She's not interested in marriage. She's only interested in having a young, handsome piggy bank. After giving in all of her demands without anything to show that she can give something back in return, Mrs. Sakai left with her spirits high. Of course, it's my job to find a match, so I tried looking for a partner that hit all the conditions that Mrs. Sakai had given, but where in the world does a guy like that exist? Not only that, because she was out of a job and had a lot of time on her hands, she was coming to visit me at the office almost every day, bothering me about whether I had found her a guy or not. To say the least, she was really stressing me out, and I was rushing to find the guy she wanted. But no matter how much I searched, there's no finding something that doesn't exist. Luckily for me, a miracle appeared to save the day. What? You want to meet Mrs. Sakai? The man that had asked me to introduce him to Mrs. Sakai was 30 years old and was working in a major company. Of course, that meant he was earning more than what Mrs. Sakai was looking for. And according to him, he had no hobbies to spend his money on, so he had doubled the amount she had specified for savings. He was the perfect match. I thought that was impossible.
Yes, I do. The second I saw her photo, I knew I had to meet her. Do you think you could set us up?
I contacted Mrs. Sakai ASAP. I ignored the obnoxious attitude she had when I told her I had found someone for her, and set up a day when they could both meet. To be honest, I didn't think I could find a better match for her than that, so I hoped that everything would go well with him. I prayed that they would find something in common and agree to a second date. But, unfortunately, life isn't that simple. And, on the day of their meeting, just half an hour after the time I had arranged for them to rendezvous, Mrs. Sakai turned up at the office, out of breath and obviously annoyed.
What are you doing? Who told you you could introduce me to that mother complex creeper? He's disgusting.
Huh? What? Mother complex?
Guess what he told me when I asked him what kind of woman he likes? He said, and I quote, "I'd like to take someone that's similar to my mother." Jesus, he told me that he's only interested in women that are older than him. And they've got to be much older. I'm looking for a husband. I'm not looking for a son.
Don't be so picky. He's everything you wanted.
What did you say?
Oh crap, I said it out loud. After that, Mrs. Sakai got even angrier and became unstoppable.
You know, this has been bothering me for a while, but do you even have a husband yourself?
No, not yet, but...
Oh, that makes so much more sense. That's why you're so bad at introducing other people, because you don't have any experience in marriage yourself. I get it now. Great.
My relationship status has nothing to do with this.
Enough! I'm not taking any more advice from this stupid little agency. You're all useless. I know that I can find a husband myself. Men will be throwing themselves at me. In the meanwhile, why don't you work a little harder on getting married yourself if you want to give other people advice on finding a husband? Oh, gosh.
Leaving a string of insults in her wake, Mrs. Sakai cackled as she left the office. She never came back. Damn her. If I wasn't this shy and passive, I would get a boyfriend myself. But I can't. Who's calling now?
Nano? Sorry, were you busy?
Mayoshi? Is this Masayoshi? At unbelievably good timing, I got a phone call from the man I've had a crush on for years. His name is Masayoshi Sugo. It's really rare for him to call this late in the evening. No, I'm not busy at all. What's up?
Well, I haven't seen you that much recently, and I thought that we could go out to have dinner sometime.
Really? Dinner? With me? Is it going to snow tomorrow? Seriously? Masayoshi asked me out to have dinner? I can't believe it. I'm so happy. I completely forgot how upset I was with Mrs. Sakai and started preparing for my date on the weekend. I was so excited that I got up really early in the morning of my date and got dressed in the outfit I had carefully coordinated the previous night. I even ended up arriving 10 minutes too early at the spot we had promised to meet at. Then...
No!
He arrived earlier than I did. He's so reliable.
Don't worry, I didn't wait. I just got up a little too early. I guess I must have been pretty excited.
He's so cute.
I've already reserved a restaurant just up the road. Are you okay to walk?
He's always so well prepared. I love that about him. We entered the lovely restaurant that Masayoshi had booked for us after a short walk. It had been such a long time since we had last spoken, and we had so much fun catching up.
So, that's what's been happening with me. I'm just glad it's over.
I'm surprised that there are still a lot of people that think you've got to get married before you're a full-fledged adult. I met one too.
Really? Someone said that to you, too? Who was it?
Yeah, a client. She even told me that I should go and find a husband myself before matchmaking other people. And that being unmarried was the reason why I'm so bad at introducing people.
Seriously? A client said that to you?
Well, I kind of get their point. That's why I couldn't argue back to her, and I just watched her leave the office. I don't even have a boyfriend.
Nano?
Yeah?
Well, there's actually something I wanted to say to you. That's why I invited you to have dinner.
What? Wait. It's got to be. He's finally going to?
Well, I've let...
Oh, look who it is. If it isn't Miss, I don't have a boyfriend and I'm not fit to call myself an adult, but I'm matchmaking people.
At the most frustrating timing, Mrs. Sakai appeared out of nowhere with a young man on her arm, only to interrupt what Masayoshi was about to say.
Mrs.
Sakai?
Huh?
Masayoshi and I looked at each other in surprise, and when she noticed who I was sitting with, Mrs. Sakai raised her voice too.
What? You're Masayoshi Sugo. What's going on?
Mrs. Sakai, what are you doing here?
Wait a minute. Masayoshi, how do you know Mrs. Sakai? Hang on. The woman you were talking about earlier, was that Mrs. Sakai too? It turned out that Masayoshi and Mrs. Sakai used to work together at the same company before Mrs. Sakai resigned.
What are you two doing together? Nerds like you should stay at home reading comics. You don't belong out in the real world.
You can't tell me where I do and don't belong. I'm trying to enjoy a date with Nano. Could you give us some privacy?
Date?
A date? That's hilarious. Don't be ridiculous, Sugo. Only a couple as beautiful as us are allowed to enjoy dates together. Right, darling?
That's right, honey.
Isn't he handsome? He's still 30, and he already owns 3 companies. And he's so ambitious, too. He's still expanding his businesses. Pretty soon, everyone will know his name.
It's thanks to you, honey. You're my lady luck. I wouldn't have been able to do it without you.
Oh, it's nothing, darling. Anyway, we're about to go and gather money for his business. Enjoy your date.
I have a bad feeling about this. Mrs. Sakai, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're not going to borrow any money for him in your name, are you?
That's right. He's already borrowed too much money for his businesses up until now. So he needs someone to borrow money for him. He needs me. I'm going to support him.
Wait a minute. Mrs. Sakai, I really think that you should stop and think about...
Come on, honey. Let's go. Otherwise, we'll be late. We better hurry.
Oh, you're right, darling. See that? I don't need a stupid dating agency like yours to help me find a man. I found the perfect man myself. That's just how attractive I am.
Nano, you don't think that...
I do, but I really pray that it's not. However, not long after that, we were to find out that our bad feeling was going to come true. 1 month later.
Hey, answer me. What have you done?
Excuse me? Did something happen?
I was tricked by a marriage con. He was lying to me, and it's all your fault.
I knew it.
That con artist, he told me that he was going to marry me and give me everything I ever wanted. But he didn't even own a single company. It was all a lie. I borrowed a fortune from the bank so that I could support his business. He begged me to help him. He told me only I could help him.
How much did he make you borrow?
$75,000.
$75,000?
You've got to pay for this.
What? Why do we have to pay?
This all happened because you couldn't find me a perfect match. Because you could only introduce me to a man with a mother complex. It's all your fault. If you had introduced me to a decent partner, then I would never have met that con artist. This would have never happened. You should take responsibility for failing me.
Seriously? She's taking false accusations to a whole other level. Mrs. Sakai, I'm afraid I can only say that I did introduce a perfect match to you, and that you were the one that turned him down. You decided to leave our agency and find a partner on your own. This all happened because of your own choices.
Shut up! You don't have any right to talk to me like that. If you want to give me your opinion, then you should find your own husband first. Once you're a full-fledged adult, then you can say all you like.
I hate to say this, but the other day at the restaurant, your former colleague, Mr. Sugo, and I actually began dating, with marriage in mind. Do you have a problem with that?
What? What did you say? That's impossible. How on earth could a boring old woman like you get married?
Look who's calling the kettle black. You're just being a hypocrite. Goodbye.
Wait a minute. You can't like this? You owe me money! You've got to help me! Please, help!
The truth is, Masayoshi actually confessed his feelings to me that day and asked me to go out with him. I didn't hesitate to say yes, and we became an official couple. According to Masayoshi,
I saw a young woman pluck up the courage to confess to someone she liked, and they began going out. I realized that I couldn't keep on making excuses forever, and had to do something before it was too late.
and that's why he finally invited me to dinner. Apparently, Mrs. Sakai had something to do with that story too. If you'd like to hear what happened, then I'd be happy if you take a look at the previous video. By the way, thanks to his other victims coming forward and giving evidence against him, the con artist was caught and thrown behind bars. However, he had already used up all of the money he had stolen from the women he had deceived, and most of it was irretrievable. I pitied the other women. But as for Mrs. Sakai, she had pleaded with the bank she had borrowed from, telling them that she had been deceived into borrowing it, and begged for them to cancel the contract. But because she had signed the contract of her own will, there was nothing that could be done. Mrs. Sakai was stuck with a $75,000 debt and would have to spend the rest of her life paying it off. I've heard rumors saying that she still believes that she's still worth becoming someone's wife, despite her massive debt, and is still continuing to rely on a dating agency to find a rich partner, while going to work to slowly pay off her debt. I hope that one day she'll be able to realize her own faults and fix them, before some poor guy ends up being caught by her, only to be used to pay off her debt.
Nano! I'm so happy to see you!
Masayoshi, thanks for waiting. I don't think that getting married is a bad thing. I really appreciate having a wonderful partner and cherish the time I can spend with Masayoshi, and I really think that it does make life all the more worth living. I hope that you all come by MoniRobo Dating Agency and rely on us when you think that it's time for you to find a partner of your own. I'll be waiting.